Hello everyone, and welcome to the Equestria Daily Fandom Podcast. This week's episode regards Equestria Girls, and we intend to cover all that we can about that magical human world. I would like to introduce my guests. Covering the comics, we have Illustrious Q.
Hello everyone.
We also have Cups.
Hey guys.
We are Borg, one of the newer members of our podcast.
Hello.
And Alistair Black as well, one of our very own artists. So the first question that I wanted to start off is that I'm not really sure if anyone is very fluent in the comics, and Q actually told me that we had some Equestria Girls comics posted over the years. And I just wanted to ask Q, what were the general themes of the comics, as well as, what did they attempt to do that the movies didn't try to do, and just anything along those lines?
Well, pretty much what establishes an Equestria Girls comic from a My Little Pony comic is that it stars, aside from the obvious humans, Sunset Shimmer. 3 of the 4 comics that were published by IDW extensively feature Sunset Shimmer, either as the protagonist, antagonist, or overarching narrator. With the fall of Sunset Shimmer, we actually go into her backstory prior to Equestria Girls 1. Which explains her fall from grace from being Princess Celestia's private pupil.
What were the other few subplots that it did, apart from the fall of grace?
Well, that was just the fall of Sunset Shimmer, and that's the only thing that the first story is focused on. The second story, which was just simply titled Equestria Girls, is the main feature of the 2013 annual. That story there happens to focus on basically the first few months of freshman year for the Humane Five.
Humane Five. Oh my god, these amazing puns. Continue.
Yeah, I didn't make that one up, but...
What did their freshman year entail? I'm assuming that it's happening before Twilight went through the portal. So is this kind of the AU type thing?
Oh yeah, this is before Twilight went into the portal. This happens to involve it actually starts with the referenced freshman fair from the first movie going on there, where the girls all enter high school and try to figure out what sort of clubs they want to meet, and basically all the typical high school problems that go along with moving into a new school and or trying to move up into the world. The most interesting tidbit here from this comic, aside from some slightly odd choices with Babs Seed being in it.
Wait, isn't there some weird canonical difference in that comic where Babs Seed is Applejack's cousin or something?
Babs Seed was always Applejack's cousin. It's just in the comic here they've made it out so that Babs Seed is older than Applejack.
That's what it was.
Considering how apparently in the My Little Pony world, everyone here is full-grown adults, and yet in the Equestria Girls world, everyone who's an adult in the Pony world is now a teenager, I'm not going to question it.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's just brush it under the rug and move on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Why the Cutie Mark Crusaders are in the same school library as, don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Not worth getting your pennies in a twist over.
Pastel humans, watch. What are the other 2 stories?
Well, before I get to the other 2 stories here, the really, really interesting part here about the My Little Pony 2013 annual is that it actually goes into the reason why Sunset Shimmer ended up becoming so powerful as she did in the high school, even without magic.
Really?
Yeah. She controlled the school newspaper.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she controlled the flow of information and gossip for the whole school. So it did not take her long to be able to twist everything in such a way that, hey, she became queen.
That does make a lot of sense. And
it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of, backstory that very much helps her character, especially with all of the fans that have been wanting to have her, have her moment to shine and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of a Gabby Gums situation.
Bingo. And that all happens prior to the situation of Equestria Girls 1.
Explains a lot.
So what about the other 2 stories?
The second story that came out is the Equestria Girls Holiday Special, which is, as you can probably guess, a Christmas story. This one here takes place in between Equestria Girls 2 and Equestria Girls 3, and it focuses on the topic of cyberbullying.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Basically, what ends up happening is that Sunset Shimmer is framed for posting some rather embarrassing information about her friends online and the fallout that comes from that. While I won't go into which little characters were responsible for it, I will say that overall it's a really enjoyable comic.
It seems very interesting, because I think one of the things that we'll be discussing relatively soon when it comes to the overall themes of Equestria Girls is that I've always been wanting the Equestria Girls universe to take kind of more human problems that the pony world is incapable of even having or comprehending, and being able to, have them be lessons of a sort that they've done within the pony world. And when you're talking about this comic, that's the kind of stuff that I would definitely lap up, love. So I'm very much interested in that comic. What about the last one?
The last one here is in one word. No, actually in two words. It's absolutely nuts.
Nuts, huh?
Is it
Nuts.
lulz Terrandom?
Oh, no. It's a wonderful send-up to the Silver Age comics. But if you've read any Silver Age comics, you know that they're crazy books to read, but oh so much fun. The story is titled The Return of the Maniac.
Oh my.
And as you can probably figure out from that title here, it involves the Power Ponies.
Spike.
Spike, you trolling us. I mean, it might involve Spike, I'm not positive.
Is it his fan fiction you wrote after the Maniac episode? Is that what that
Sounds
is?
like it.
It does sound like
Nope.
a fanfic.
Nope. The story is about Maniac from the Power Ponies universe, the four-legged one, meeting Maniac from the human Power Ponies universe. Yes, it is just that insane as well. And
That's pretty out there.
and it's full of hair-raising puns.
Oh, that's
Like the one you just made right now?
That's
Yeah,
It's
I've
worth
been known to
noting
curl
that,
one
like,
every now and then.
It's only a little 8-page extra at the end of the annual, so it's not like the entire comic is about that. But it was a fun little addition.
It was a fun little addition here, and the best part here about it here is that whole story here happens to be a comic inside a comic being
right.
read by Rainbow Dash.
Comicception.
Sounds
Yes.
like a Rainbow Dash presents so much.
yeah, it does.
Now that we have all the comics out of the way, I think that one of the main things that we'll want to dive into is the generalities. So our general opinions on the series, and then as well as some other questions that we have just regarding what would we either want to see within it, or what we think is going to happen with the future of Equestria Girls. It doesn't seem like it's the brakes have railed yet on the Equestria Girls train now that we have the fourth movie confirmed, right?
Yep.
Right, I believe it is.
Yeah, we got that fourth movie confirmed. So I think a really good question to start off with is that we're going to start with Alistair. Say, what's one thing that you could say is the
All right.
definitive standard to Equestria Girls as a whole?
Well, I think there's some production value to they put their effort into it. I think it's no argument that nobody really wanted to do it. It was something that Hasbro kind of threw at them. I think that's certain. But I think that they still use it as an opportunity to connect with the fandom and throw little things in there for us. So I think that no matter what, they're going to have something in there just to show that it's still the same group of people that we love and that we've stuck with so far with the the ponies. There's always that trend of staying with the fandom.
How about yourself,
That's
Board?
just
I'd have to agree pretty much with that. It's great to see what they've done with it in terms of really trying to stay true to kind of the characters and the television show that we know and love.
How about yourself, Cups?
I think the setting is really the strongest separation. They do lots of little things to try to make it feel like it's school life. These are your characters you love, and this is when they were in school, or this is them in school. This is in the school that you're in, or you're going to be in. Relate to them. And the best part about the Equestria Girls is that in the end, that barely matters. I mean, you're there for the characters. You don't really. It doesn't matter if you like the high school or you don't. It doesn't matter that they're in a schoolyard when the bad guy transforms into a demon and the main character goes Super Saiyan and there's explosions and portals to other dimensions and Oh no, the school statue got blown up. Well, okay.
It feels very much like a popcorn flick at times, or like many of the other cartoons from like the 90s where like everything can get destroyed, like in Powerpuff Girls or Ed and Eddie. Just everything is destroyed, but like next episode, everything's fine again.
Yeah.
I wonder how many hours Sunset Shimmer spent like rebuilding the school after the first movie.
I mean, she probably got insurance. Celestia might have got insurance for the school. So by the time like they were going to film the next movie, they're like, "Oh wait, we got it all fixed now."
Yeah, Act of God. I'm not sure that's covered.
Oh well, schools always do. Bonds for they always take it out on the taxpayers when they need money.
Fair.
How about yourself, Q? What would you say is the defining trait in Equestria Girls?
It's Doug with magic and music.
Doug is in the cartoon show?
Yep.
I've never actually seen Doug, so I'm not sure if that's
an interesting way to put it.
Is it?
Now I think about it, that's a pretty good description actually. Doug was definitely a cartoon from my childhood,
Which basically involved characters of multiple various colors going to school and dealing with school issues.
It's like Duck meets Danny Phantom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Kind of.
It's a little more... Was it a little more mature type of cartoon?
Doug, yes.
Yeah, it was kind of... Because I remember seeing, like, a while ago, a lot of, like, compliments towards Doug for being a little more dense than usual. And, like, being able to kind of circumvent regular programming by saying things in a little more dense way. Kind of like the Starfalls with Applejack's parents and stuff like that. Being subtle, that's the word.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I would definitely have to agree when it comes to cups, in that, with Equestria Girls, the universe is definitely the one thing that kind of sets it apart. And the ability to have all of this sort of, technology, and to have a city that is basically up to our own technological standards. And that's interesting in a way.
It is.
Like
Always
Vinyl.
with cell phones.
Yeah, cell phones especially, and Vinyl having, like... I mean, that entire Rainbow Rock short, her, like, working off of music.
Oh, yeah.
That was, like, one of my favorite shorts from the Rainbow Rocks timeline. Was when she was, like, listening to... I forget what it was called, but that was just really, really neat, and, like, something that I really wanted to see more of. Maybe not in the movie, but just in shorts in general. So we have another question regarding the Sirens, the Dazzlings. Everyone's wondering what happened to them. Borg, what do you think has happened to the Sirens after they have lost all of their powers?
So, they lose all their powers, and, sometimes I'm wondering just how long have they been there, to have been, if they're aging the same as the rest of the characters, are they in fact, just as old as Twilight Sparkle or something? But, how much sense does that make if they were banished there? But, after that, maybe they probably slunk off, and they probably have truancy officers looking for them. But I think they would have skipped town entirely. They might have even bickered between themselves so much that they might have just parted ways, and we might need to see them maybe come back and come together as friends, because that's just about the only thing they have left anymore.
How about yourself, Cups? Would you say that, because my guess would be that since they were able to get everyone to do what they want, I would imagine that they just become like poli-sci majors or something?
Well, it's definitely, fun fandom. It's definitely material for fun fandom stuff. Like, think about it psychologically. Think about the fact that they themselves, they're basically like predators, and to them, the weak are to be preyed upon, to be taken advantage of. And are they even capable of understanding or empathizing with the fact that others might actually take pity on them and accept them into their social circles? Would their natural reaction be to run away, because otherwise they're afraid that they would just get stomped into the ground if they stuck around? So, yeah, it makes sense for them to possibly skip town. Of course, that makes fanfiction hard to write, so I'm sure they stuck around.
How about yourself, Q?
What I think happened to the Dazzlings? Oh, it's simple. They joined Cobra and formed the band called Slither.
Oh, dear Lord.
I missed the reference.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's what I was thinking. That's
Yeah.
pretty damn funny.
I was like Cobra. I was like, it's possible, but I'm not particularly positive. All right, so
Yeah. They formed the band with the Dreadnoughts.
That's good.
Alistair, do you have any crazy fan theories on what happened to the Dazzlings?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you consider a fan. Like, I know what happened. I mean, it's not a theory. Like, I mean, you know, if you watch the episode, it's no mystery that Celestia, you know, brought him back over to Equestria and has him in a dungeon right now, and they're having their times of their lives, sitting in Tartarus, I'm sure, with Tyrek and all them just chilling. I think we're gonna see them in the Pony World. That's my theory.
That's your
Is
prediction?
that they're all gonna escape Tartarus again, and we're gonna see them in the Pony World.
I think them
so.
being in Tartarus was definitely the behind the scenes episode that only Equestria Daily got to watch. So there's your first premiere scoop of what's going to happen in season 6. Dazzlings break out of Tartarus, and we get a whole, I can't pronounce that correctly, and we get a whole episode devoted to that. So you're welcome, fans. All right, so for opinion on the Equestria Girls movies over the years, how have they changed? We will start with Borg.
Oh my goodness, how they've changed. I feel like they've really kind of followed that same format of, I feel like they haven't changed just about. You know, there's some setup, there's some struggle with friendship, and then there's some like big explosion at the end where somebody turns into something crazy, and these anthroponies come in and save the day. I'd have to argue that they haven't changed formats more than they have. That might be a problem with them.
How about yourself, Cups?
Looks like the major evolution is to separate them as much as possible from My Little Pony universe by putting Sunset Shimmer into more and more of a position of being the leader of their little band of friends. You know, by the end of Friendship Games, not counting the, the sneak peek, the
Post-credits.
The stinger, the post-credits fun. Twilight from Equestria didn't make any appearance at all. Like, Sunset Shimmer is the only pony that is in the entire Friendship Games, not when you're, besides when you're looking through a tiny portal in the sky. So, they're making efforts to make Equestria Girls a separate brand, and that alone makes me feel like we'll never see anything from Equestria Girls in My Little Pony, aside from using Flash Sentry as a background element, and we'll never see anyone except maybe Twilight showing up in Equestria Girls ever again either, which is sad because I'd really hoped that when I first saw the early materials for Friendship Games, I had this pet theory that it was going to be Changelings, and I was super excited, and then it ended up being Principal Abacus McClabacus and slightly disappointed that she wasn't Queen Chrysalis, but they're even the similar sound. Chrysalis, Abacus, come on, it would have been awesome. Anyway, so yeah, separation of pony and humanes seems to be the biggest evolution since the beginning.
Yeah, don't worry, Cups. You could put that Queen Chrysalis idea in your next fanfic.
I'll work on that right now.
Well, Queen Chrysalis already has her own Equestria Girls doll, so it's kind of like...
Yeah, seriously.
Why didn't you do that?
Wait,
Yeah,
she has her own doll? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Well, it seems like a missed opportunity of
And
it
they-
was.
the
They
highest
did
degree.
they did a trivia thing once, or a Facebook. They did a Facebook marketing post saying I don't know. They were marketing Friendship Games, and one of the trivia or the random questions, multiple choice questions, was Princess Celestia was the Changeling Queen all along, or something like that. And I'm like, well, okay, that just confirms. Nope, it didn't confirm anything. Hasbro freaking peak troll material is amazing.
Wait, what? They said that Celestia was the Changeling Queen in Equestria Girls?
It was one of the options in a multiple choice trivia thing that was part of their marketing campaign that was on their Facebook page.
That is really weird.
And it had no impact on anything except for to raise and then dash my spirits across everywhere. Just gross.
Q, how about yourself?
For the overall format of the show itself, there hasn't really been too much of a change since they've been basically following the exact same formula that was established all the way back in the Elements of Harmony first episode.
Yeah,
of
pilot.
in the pilot episode. It's like you're going through the same motions for these last 3 movies. Admittedly, it's a variation on the plot with some advancements from previous episodes here, but the stories here always end with a blast of magic swirling all around here that ends up changing and saving the day. So as far as the overall structure of the stories goes, they haven't changed too much.
Yeah, it seems very odd to, at least as far as the lack of change is concerned, considering the most recent season of the actual pony, the entire point of it was the fact that there was no big, huge friendship laser beam. It was all diplomatic in order to make the villain admit their wrongdoings and also to just kind of show what happens to the universe when you toy with it that much.
Oh, I have all my own issues here about the finale of this season here, but I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, but I just find that very interesting, that Equestria Girls is still doing big, huge laser boom thing on, like, the 3rd movie, and the 3rd movie was, last year or something, and we did big, huge laser boom thing. Like, we kind of diverted away from it in, not Season 4's finale, but Season
5 opener.
Yeah, and also Season 4's premiere.
Well, can we get away from the explosions? I mean, these are supposed to be, movies, theatrical movies.
Yeah.
Is it possible to kind of downplay, how exciting it is? I can't remember. Was the 3rd movie released in theaters?
No.
No.
So that right there is a misnomer anyways, because these aren't supposed to be theatrical movies, they're direct-to-DVD releases.
That's true. And so it's, does it need to be, exciting in some way to, get a parent to sit down and watch it with their kids for maybe longer than 22 minutes?
Well, I would argue that the 3rd movie ends... Sure, it has a climactic battle, but the force of good is clearly being overpowered by the force of evil until Spike comes in, distracts the force of evil, and then kind of fades to almost like the world where Twilight became a princess, sort of like an ethereal, time is stopped, magical place where Sunset talks down Twilight and gets her to accept her hand. So it kind of felt like the Season 5 finale was a bunch of lasers and dodging and energy explosions. Well, more like cloud cutting, but it led to a talking down. And, the show is talking about cycles, things being cyclical. The show always seems to have, a journey rather than the destination type of thing, where the explosions, the brute force never solves the problem, and what you need to do instead is, basically group hug. And sometimes the group hug involves, lasers. But sometimes, lately, group hugs have involved, touching.
Reaching out for someone's hand is what I think you kind of wanted to get to.
Yeah,
exactly.
You might want to watch the phrasing there, because there's, especially with all the Twilight Sunset shipping that I see all over fanfiction. But the other question I wanted to ask regarding... So some people have been asking about if Equestria Girls becomes a TV show. And I think that this is a place that we can get a lot of discussion in, because both Borg and I have touched Equestria Girls in our editorials, where we basically said that the universe has the capability to differentiate itself in the way that we kind of said previously, because it was kind of trying to have, Sunset the main character and have Twilight not even do anything, or not do anything, but not have any sort of role, because Sunset has the role in this world. So when it comes to a television show, I think that it has, the capability to, pull it off more with perhaps the the targeted demographic of the show as opposed to us, because I think that kind of Equestria Girls just has a bad taste in everyone's mouth after the first one. You know? I still see a lot of people that have the sort of distaste for it. And, you know, I'll watch any of them, you know, just to see kind of what it is. But with the television show, you think it could possibly have kind of like a Ned's Declassified school survival guide type thing, where like how to survive high school or how to make everything more empathetic to more sort of harsher and different problems that it would have as opposed to like the equestrian world. What do you think, Borg? Or what do you think? Well, here, you can answer that question, but also what do you think the Equestria Girls TV show would consist of? Because I doubt it would be like big, huge theatrics, every episode, big, huge laser beams, etc., etc.
It can't be the same thing as ponies.
Mm-hmm.
It has to have some sort of subtle difference, maybe other than the ponies. Now, Hasbro is known, of course, to, you know, I was going to touch on like the even feasibility of it, and yes, it is feasible. I believe, I'm not going to look up the Hasbro earning reports on the Equestria Girls, you know, branding just about, but the toys do seem to sell out just as well as, you know, the pony toys do come Christmas time. Anyway, and Hasbro is definitely known to have multiple shows. For instance, you know, on Cartoon Network they have Transformers Prime or Rescue Bots, one of the two. Rescue Bots.
Actually,
Rescue Bots.
It's Robots in Disguise on Cartoon Network, and it's Rescue Bots on Discovery Family.
That's correct. And I just did an article on that. So it's very possible they could do that. I'm wondering if it's even possible for them to do it on the same Discovery Family. They might ship that off to maybe Cartoon Network or some other network. But, you know, it'd have to be a little bit different. And, you know, the question is being human enough of a difference? You know, and you know what? I don't think it is. You know, I think it'd have to change up. You know, it couldn't be like friendship reports and, you know, traveling around trying to solve, you know, problems. Did we want to regulate, you know, just solving friendships in a high school? You know, maybe if you wanted something boring, but, you know, who knows? So I can't guess too well what they could do to, you know, make it a more television-y like show. I think they have a formula, and I think there are writers out there who can figure it out. So I think it's possible.
How about yourself, Cups?
Well, in the new Equestria Girls Canterlot High television show, Sunset Shimmer is a transfer student from far away with a mysterious secret. And soon she discovers there are 5 very bright and interesting girls at the school who all want to marry her in this new awesome harem anime direct to you from Bones. Next question.
Q.
Cups, that was beautiful.
Is it going to have a really kawaii opening theme?
That's who.
Kawaii Destiny.
That's a yes.
Keeping it real.
What Equestria Girls would have to do is that they'd have to move a little bit away from doing the fantastical and focus more on actually doing actually trying to relate to the actual day-to-day struggles that high school students here would actually go through. In essence, they would have to try to make the show a little bit more like Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Like Doug, actually focus on day-to-day problems, focus on bullying, focus on studying for the test, focus on not doing well in class, focus on athletics here, and most importantly, don't make the school the be-all and end-all of the existence of the universe.
Yeah.
It has to expand outside of it.
Yeah.
Explore the city, explore the country, explore what happens during the summer, explore what happens during the winter, what sort of holidays do they have. There's potential for so much to just take place in that universe here. But in order for them to do it, they'd have to be able to do more than just one story a year. So, and we're going on to the fourth animated story, so we'll see what happens.
When Sunset Shimmer and her 5 fiancés all go to the beach during summer vacation, the action really heats up.
Cups, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna like take you out of the podcast and then kill you. And not specifically in that order. So you're just gonna have to wait and see what happens.
The pieces of me, can the diced up pieces of me come back on the podcast?
No.
No.
You're gonna have to make your own podcast with Blackjack. And only that. But the universe was the one thing that I really think has the potential to make Equestria Girls into a television show. Because all of it is unexplored. So you have the capability to just do whatever. And all of the areas can be as complex as the high school, or not, because, you know, not everything has to be complex for you to, like, derive a story from it. You know, we've had shows like Doug that have been able to profit off of a high school setting, or like Ed, Ed and Eddie as well. You know, there have been some criticism towards Ed and Eddie for kind of running out of ideas as they went to school instead of the cul-de-sac. But there's definitely, you know, these sort of characteristic choices that could easily drive 22 minutes, like whatever club Rainbow Dash or Fluttershy decides to go into. You know, maybe they get a little, like, sidled out, like no one wants to chill with Fluttershy in the animal club. She prefers to work alone or something like that. But there's a lot of the city especially. And the other thing that some people asked is, what do you think the villains are going, like, if this is kind of already answered, I guess, previously, but if the equestrian villains were to go into Equestria Girls, someone said Discord would be like a janitor, Sombra would be the type of evil corporate overlord, and then Chrysalis would be like a cheerleader because she loves all the attention. Like, what if we were to assume that all of the, or not all, but just like maybe pick one of the equestrian villains goes into Equestria Girls, what do you think would be a good, like, plot device that you could put them in for like a 22-minute episode?
Well, imagine that Nightmare Moon was a bit of an essence, not just contained within just Luna, but it was actually like a dark presence that controlled her. And that...
Stay away from that premise in the comics, please, please, please.
Yeah, the Q has already had a lot of sadness towards that being the premise in the comics, but you can continue, Cups.
Well, if that force snuck through the mirror and, like, the vice principal of your school was, like, an evil megalomaniac and was slowly trying to, like, do something, like, what is it? There's an old, like, 80s and 90s kids books. I was like, my fourth grade teacher is an alien, my fifth grade teacher is from Mars, or...
Kind of like R.L. Steinish books, or were they different?
They were kind of, yeah. But, you know, that's a fun concept of how Nightmare Moon could exist in the same universe as, I don't know, a non-magical Luna, you know?
What do you think, Borg?
Well, I think, first I'd like to comment that Sombra would probably be some sort of cartel lord into human trafficking. And
oh my goodness.
And secondly... Blood diamonds. Secondly, you know, there was kind of in the movie where we have our non-equestrian Twilight, you know, running around collecting the magic. That might actually be kind of an interesting kind of pilot foundation. You know, that extra spin where, you know, maybe a little too much magic has been released into the world, and, you know, maybe they need to, like, try and get it back where it came from, and so, you know, you have you know, Twilight or friends, or maybe even, you know, Sunset Shimmer and friends trying to, you know, run around and, you know, close up, you know, wormholes and tentacles coming out everywhere, and but also try to kind of fit into a normal place and keep things normal instead of crazy poniness popping out.
Borg, have you read Sunset Slayer by Penstroke?
No, I haven't.
Because that's the exact premise that he used in that fanfic.
Oh, well, I guess they can't do it now.
I guess they can't do it now. Well, it took me all of 10 seconds to come up with it. So.
Ouch. Penstroke. Burned.
So someone asked...
Penstroke's great. Penstroke's great.
He is. Actually, Q, did you have an answer to that?
Yes. First of all, Borg, I happen to disagree with you about Sombra. I happen to think that Silver Quill has it right perfectly. Sombra would own a 7-Eleven and nothing else.
And why is that?
Because he's King Sombra. And supposedly working at 7-Eleven is hell. I don't know. I haven't worked at one, so... But yeah, I think it would be interesting for Discord to actually appear in the series as either the ringleader of a circus or an eccentric billionaire.
Oh, just the type of billionaire character that doesn't even care about the fact that he's rich and just wants to destroy stuff?
No, more like the kind of billionaire character who has oodles and oodles of money and just focuses on having fun regardless of the consequences.
So,
kind of like Willy Wonka.
So Tony Stark.
Yeah.
More like a Willy Wonka-ish Tony Stark, yeah.
What if the pony Discord went to Humanestria and started, stalking the human Discord? Slowly driving him mad, like Great Gazoo and Fred Flintstone style?
Oh, first of all, the human Discord's already insane. Okay. So there would be no chance of that working. If anything, I think the two of them would probably meet each other and start having drinks.
Yeah, just start, destroying stuff nearby. Just being like, oh, hey, I think I could do it better, and then the world is, upside down.
Either they start spending money like crazy here to get all their crazy ideas off the ground.
Rocket to the moon! We'll see if Luna's actually there in this universe.
Let's see. Yeah, pretty much that.
So let's see. As you know, Friendship Games had a cut subplot of Sunset thinking about going back to Equestria, including some cut scenes and a changed ending. Do you think the added emotional depth would have improved the movie for Friendship Games, or was cutting it a good choice? Borg?
I don't think it was necessary for the movie, but I think it definitely would have added some emotional depth. Maybe they might. It's nice that she's kind of found her place where she's at because she left Equestria and didn't really have that place. So that's my thoughts on it.
Cups?
It's sad they cut it. I wish they had kept it in. Just, flat out, I wish they had had a chance to make the movie they wanted to and also keep that subplot. If you're anyone who's had to edit, anything of substance that has, where each part of it still has some sort of merit or does something, but maybe it doesn't all make the core of what you're trying to give everyone, shine. It sucks to have to be able to remove stuff that's just flat out interesting. And you usually hope that the fans never find out. In the end, it was good for us to know that that the writers consider her, a multi-leveled character, a character that wants more than just is immediately in front of her, or is introspective, isn't sure exactly what she wants. B, we got that sweet version of the song. The song in the movie is already decent. It's a good song about Twilight, coming to terms with things and figuring out what she's doing, and not coming to terms, but kind of expositioning her past and where she wants to go. And when it was a mixture of Twilight knowing exactly where she wants to go but having no idea how to get there, and Sunset having no idea where she wants to go but being somewhere and having a chance to go places but not sure where, it was a great juxtaposition. And I'm not sure, maybe they also thought that, heck, does this really position these two characters where we want them for where they're going to be by the end of this movie and moving on to the next one? So, there's no way to know, you know what I mean? If the movie could have been 10 minutes longer, would they have kept that entirely? Or did they want to, I hate to say simplify, but did they purposely want to simplify it so that they wouldn't lose their target audience from, paying attention to the main plot? It's rough to say, but, personal bias, I wish they'd had a chance to keep it in there since Sunset Shimmer is great.
Do you have anything to add, Q?
I have a gut feeling that the scenes that we get on the DVD is not everything that made it on the cutting room floor. Sure. I have a feeling that the movie here would have been different, possibly in tone and in other ways. In other ways, both subtle and overt, if they had actually gone through with the original draft as opposed to going through what happens with all movie productions here, whittling away the excess baggage and then to get to the actual core and the meat of the story. I can't, in all honesty, give an opinion one way or the other about whether or not the cut material would have made a better movie than what we got, because I have no idea if everything here that we saw on the DVD is everything that was cut, and or what the original rough cut of the film was. We have no idea what that is, so...
Yeah, that's a fair example, a fair response.
For all we know, the original plan, or a possible plan, was that Sunset Shimmer, makes this group of 6 friends. She kind of incidentally remakes the main 6 with the new Twilight, and then comes back to Equestria. Like, who knows?
Yeah, that's actually quite possibly an ending that could have worked, and then it could have spawned the next Equestria Girls side series if they were making one.
Yep.
Or conversely, could have been the end of the Equestria Girls franchise, and toys are still selling well. Okay, time to make another movie.
Yeah.
We don't know, so it's simply a matter of. That's a question that, unfortunately, really can't be answered one way or the other.
All right, I like this one. Who has the best Equestria Girls design? Which design do you think looks most like the character as a human?
Rainbow Dash.
Yeah, I was gonna say Rainbow Dash looks like she has the best Equestria Girls design. Cups?
Yeah, Rainbow Dash is. She's sporty. She just the way she moves is. It looks like they put more time into her sports scenes and just moving around and stuff because she's supposed to be Rainbow Dash. So yeah, they did a really good job of bringing her to life as a bipedal monkey thing.
But bipedal monkey human thing in a world that's supposed to be ponies.
Yeah.
Do you think Equestria Girls 4 will be the last one?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say no. Cups, you think so?
Probably not. I don't think we're going to see a last one until the last one that they actually put out is, I wouldn't say shockingly cheap, but you know what I mean? It feels like it was almost phoned in. Like it was, let's milk the last dregs of this.
Oh, for the third one?
Or no, I'm just saying, if the fourth one feels like they just made it to wring the last bit of money out of the franchise as possible, which is also maybe part of why they're working hard to separate the two, so that when or if Equestria Girls ends, it doesn't have any real impact on momentum for Pony. Then, at that point, I would say, sure. But 3, to me, felt like almost like the closing of a cycle. Like, this is the end of the end of a journey. We're back to having the main 6 plus Sunset Shimmer without needing to have pony princesses involved at all. So, if anything, it felt like 3 could have been the end. But now there's going to be a 4th one, unless that 4th one is of middling or lower quality in some obvious way.
Oh, I like this question. In your opinion, if you were the director of the Equestria Girls, what particular setting and plotline of the movie would you choose, aside from Canterlot High, to be the focus of the next sequel, to make it unique, worthwhile, and memorable?
Discord! and his amazing theme park, Happy Fun Go Lucky Land.
That's pretty good. I would like to see that. What do you think, Cups?
They could totally jump the shark and have one of those like dumb, like Ben 10 plots where like the all of the main seven have to like break into NASA and fly in a real shuttle after kidnapping like the astronauts to the moon to like beat Nightmare Moon.
What?
Exactly.
That was actually a really fun two-parter, and guest starred Michael Dorn as Frankenstein. It was wonderful.
I haven't watched any Ben 10, but I just made a logic leap.
Wait, did that
Michael Dorn?
happen?
Never watched Ben 10, but you actually guessed. Oh, wow.
Wait,
That
so
one-
that actually happened in Ben 10?
Yeah, they stole a space shuttle here to go fight aliens in space.
Yep, it happened in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Of course it's going to happen in cartoons like Ben 10.
Borg, if you were the director of Equestria Girls, what setting and plotline would you choose aside from Canterlot High to focus on the next sequel of the movie to make it unique, worthwhile, and memorable?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Josh Haber's work, which always has kind of like this dark, deeper meaning.
Yeah,
which is probably why there was so much on the cutting room floor of Equestria Girls. But man, I would have them I'd have them try to go to like some sort of kind of a capital city type thing, and just travel away on a field trip or something, and have some shenanigans there.
So we want Equestria Girls House of Cards.
I would have said the West Wing, but yeah.
So which one dies first?
Which one dies first? A Spike. I mean,
Wow, Borg. That was immediate.
You killed the dog? Why?
That was an immediate response.
it's a dog. I mean, he doesn't live as long. Spike's got it rough in this world. In ponies, he's a dragon that lives forever versus a dog. So
I never considered that.
Spike should be like a Galapagos turtle or something. Equestria Girls.
Green Parrot.
Favorite Equestria Girls character? Q.
Can we get Q from Star Trek in? Sorry.
In Equestria
Well-
Girls, that'd be awesome.
Well, I wish I could say Discord, but he's not in it, unfortunately. Let's see. Favorite Equestria Girls character? I'm going to have to go with two of them. Lyra and Bon Bon.
Wait, are they best friends in?
Yes, they're clearly best friends.
Oh, okay.
Judging by how the end of their short here ended with a nice little loving heart.
Totally best friends. Cubs.
I'll go with Sunset Shimmer as protagonist, and originally I would have said Sonata Dusk. I immediately joined the taco train, as it were. But, like, I've grown slowly to think that Adagio Dazzle is just really cool. Like, there's something about the way that she casually invades personal space, but because of their magic, no one even notices, and they're just sort of like, okay. And then does what she wants, combined with the voice acting, the character design. I don't know. She's my favorite villain of the series so far.
And she still has a billboard for a forehead that clearly says villain right on top.
Borg, how about yourself?
Mine would probably be Principal Abacus something, whatever it is.
Principal Abacus Cinch.
Yeah,
Yes.
Q, what was that funny name that you said? Principal.
Abacus Cinch.
No, but
Abacus
like
Cinch.
there was a.
Oh, no, I said something about Principal Abacus Cadavoclithus.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Cadavoclithus?
Okay,
Abacus
so
Cinch.
the final question that I will ask you guys.
Wait.
no.
Was Borg, were you being serious?
No, not at all. No,
Okay, then-
actually, no. It would have to be. I like Sunset Shimmer. Actually, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I like where she's come from. I like where she's going.
Yep.
And I like the struggle was struggle's been real for her. It's throughout each movie she's dealing with something different that's just let alone just fitting in kind of thing. So, she's not had an easy time with it.
I want her to reunite with Celestia.
No, her journey's been awesome. Like, everyone, I don't think there's anybody would expect her to go from what she was at the end of the first movie to where she was at the end of the second. Like, she went from okay, that's not a bad villain, to, like, with a cool transformation, sure, to, like, in most people's top 10 ponies lists. You know what I mean? That might be a slight exaggeration, but so, and then it comes from genuineness. She's portrayed as a very genuine character. Like, when she has the screaming fit at Twilight in the third movie, and then as soon as Twilight walks away, she facepalms and feels awful about it.
All the characters feel genuine. That's part of the charm of the show.
True. So, but, she gets the limelight, and she gets good lines, and she's a heroine who has a chance to, like, fail and then get back up on her feet, and she's really well done. It surprised a lot of people. It surprised me.
I had a follow-up. You mentioned that you wanted to, see her reconnect with Celestia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if Celestia had wanted to reconnect with her, would she have used the interdimensional cell phone book? Or, did she purposely ship it off to Twilight because either A, she was totally done with, Sunset, or, maybe she's just being, that master chess manipulator.
Well, you have to remember in the second movie that the interdimensional cell phone book was kind of a one in a million shot of that even working, so odds are that not even Celestia was aware that that thing worked.
Yeah, probably.
Until Twilight ended up answering it by mistake. Or by complete accident.
The final question that I will ask you guys. This will require all of your mental fortitude, and answering incorrectly will get you fired from Equestria Daily. So answer correctly. What do you think of the new character revealed earlier in the week? So, Princess Flurry Heart. I'm invoking the poll that we have. So, we'll start with Borg.
What do I think about Flurry Heart? I don't know. That the news of Flurry Heart actually got released 30 minutes before one of my editorials went up. So
yeah,
she
I remember
already
you talking about that.
Yeah,
already
talking about that.
Me. Already inconvenienced me. No. She so far has not fit in. She has some growth hormone problems already.
Big, huge wings.
It's not only the big huge wings.
Huge eyes.
She's got big huge eyes. They're not the cute little, single colored dots that we normally see on foals.
Seth and Fee hate those. It always makes me laugh.
They're actually quite disturbing, really. Especially since they were introduced in that one episode. And it's not, I don't know. I mean, are alicorn babies bigger? Are they further developed? Maybe she has some sort of like magical growth spurts. Cadence looked kind of ragged. I was kind of surprised to even see her on her feet after her foal that big.
Yeah.
But I figure out, a lot of people are freaking out that it's, that she, has the wings and the horn, but I don't mind so much. I'm completely okay with not trying to second guess what writers have in store for us on the show. And I figured that maybe being an alicorn is just genetics, manipulates your DNA. So it's completely possible that an alicorn and a unicorn can totally create another alicorn.
Cups?
Well, the serious answer is people should calm down. Like, the show has been filled with things that we do know and don't know if the writers of the show, the creators of the show, have been asked or forced to put into the Ponyville, put into Canterlot, blah, blah, blah. So my great example is it seems pretty likely, if not definite, that Hasbro asked the folks at DHX for the season 2 finale to be a wedding. And because of that request, we got Queen Chrysalis.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone should just take a chill pill.
Yeah, I just...
Also, she's a baby, so she probably won't go to Canterlot High yet, so it's not even relevant, Vicodin.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cups.
Your apology accepted.
Q?
Oh, it's crystal clear as to who Princess Flurry Heart is. After all, her coloration is almost exactly the same as Starlight Glimmer.
Oh my
They're
goodness.
going for a river song type of situation with Princess Flurry Heart, where Starlight Glimmer is Flurry Heart in the future.
Oh my god, my
Have
brain.
fun.
And then all of the fanfics are being written literally right now when it comes to
yes.
that possibility. Yeah, she looks adorable. I mean, it looks to bring up Cups' previous point, the thing that I would bring up is like rainbow power. It was like the focus of a season, but it never came up in season 5. They were just like, okay, we're gonna make it a whole season, and then it was like the finale, and it was like cool and stuff, and then nothing since. So like, I'm pretty sure the writers are capable of being able to like have the one episode that's like, okay, the overlords are happy, let's go back to our Game of Thrones 25 episode bonanza where every character dies and we introduce a bunch of new ones every season. You know, season 6.
You know, I'm hoping that Twilight, she looked kind of shocked at what she saw there, and so I'm hoping it's like, how is this even possible, kind of thing, and Celestia and Luna like bring out their PowerPoint presentation, like, actually, so here's this family tree we have, and.
Yeah, that would actually expand on the book that actually came out a couple of years ago for the Journal of the Two Sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was actually another question that I had possibly for a later editorial. So when Flash Sentry marries Twilight and they have a kid, does that mean that the child is going to be an Alicorn?
Who says that Flash Sentry is going to marry Twilight?
He said when. It's inevitable.
Yeah, when, not if. When.
I mean, it's a recessive gene, so
Oh.
maybe.
So it's like a 50-50?
Maybe it's a 50-50, or maybe it's maybe a little, maybe it's a 25% chance, and you also have the 25% chance of Unicorn, Pegasus, or Earth Pony.
In the latest comic, apparently you can steal Pegasi wings and turn them into dark necromantic potions that let you turn into an alicorn. So I have to imagine if Twilight was pregnant, she probably could make that baby be anything she wanted to.
Well, apparently Pegasi wings there happens to be the secret ingredient in Red Bull, so...
Oh, that's true.
Apparently that's how you get wings.
All right, before we have any more terrible jokes, I think it's about time that we end this week's edition of the Equestria Daily Fandom Podcast. I would definitely like to thank Q.
A pleasure, as always.
Cups.
In the climactic Season 2 premiere of Equestria Girls Canterlot High, new transfer student Twilight Sparkle steals all of Sunset Shimmer's romantic partners. What will ever happen to her?
And
5
Cups,
divorces?
I'm going to find you so quickly.
Quintuple divorce.
And Borg. I'm gonna go bang my head against a wall.
Resistance is futile.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Patrick
You all have a
Stewart said
great...
the line so much better.
Bye.
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 Laters.